What are some psychological tricks so powerful that should be illegal? Story 1. One of the most overlooked psychological tricks I've ever seen is not caring about convincing anyone. People argue, yell, and lose their minds just to prove a point, without realizing that arguing almost never changes someone's opinion. Agreeing tends to make you more likable. Whether or not you believe in an afterlife, most of what happens here doesn't really matter, so stop trying to persuade people. Let them think they're right and move on with your peace. Story 2. Exploiting people's instinct to blame anyone who's different is one of the oldest tricks in the book. It almost never targets the real source of the problem, and it usually ends up requiring blind praise for some narcissistic leader who decides who's loyal, usually to themselves. It takes real courage and integrity to judge people based on their own actions, but most of us don't do that. We group up like herds waiting for someone to lead us, and that's exactly when things start to fall apart. Strong leaders find a way to bring everyone in. Small-minded ones need control and divide people into sides to get it. Story 3. I'm about to gaslight a coworker who complained about my perfume, even though she smells like an ashtray half the time. Sorry, Joyce, lesson incoming. For the record, I've used the same roll-on perfume maybe twice a month for the past year, right near her. She's been close enough to smell it plenty of times, but today she claims that when she walked behind me, the scent smacked her in the face. It reminds me of a time another coworker lost it because I opened a bottle of nail polish to fix one chipped nail, just one quick swipe, and she acted like I'd released toxic gas. She ran to our supervisor to complain, and I said, "I don't smell anything. Are you okay? Maybe you should see a doctor." Story 4. Understanding people's emotional trigger words. Most people just kind of float through life, so they are sensitive to specific words. For example, if I say Trump, it just automatically triggers some people and makes them want to say something or get angry or get emotional or just triggers their amygdala. Knowing how and when to use this, you can manipulate people and take advantage of them, putting them in a state of mind where they can't think properly and their logic circuits are screwed. Yay. Story 5. Sleep deprivation is powerful as hell. Sound pollution and light pollution actually, for sleep deprivation or just because it's disconcerting. Making someone somehow unable to eat enough, like someone used to make the kitchen a totally inhospitable place for me to be, flew into a terrifying rage every time I entered the room. People will wonder why they're losing weight and think they're on hard drugs. It will destroy their life. If it's a woman with kids, they'll stop seeing her in a motherly way because she'll hardly ever get to cook for them, and it hurts her relationship with them, etc. It's a big deal. Make the kitchen hospitable for a woman and you screw her good. Make the bathroom inhospitable, keep it occupied, hide the toilet paper, throw a fit, and lock them outside so they end up having to go in the yard and feel dehumanized. This was also done to me. It's powerful. I got UTIs and dehydrated myself, ended up at the ER being treated like a drug addict, just OMG. Story 6. The mirror technique, as in subtly mirroring the other person's body to gain their trust and liking on a subconscious level. Apparently it is highly effective unless you do it in an obvious way. Then you get the opposite reaction. Example, if they cross their legs, you cross your legs, so it looks like how it would be if they were looking into a mirror. They rub their neck, you rub your neck. It obviously should not be done immediately as they do it because it becomes so apparent, but subtly, some minutes later or something. Story 7. Push-pull in relationships. Variable intermittent reinforcement is the most powerful reinforcement schedule. It causes extreme obsession, but it will really mess people up. Be nice to people. The push-pull is actually what creates a trauma bond. The only way to get out of it and move on is complete no contact. Block them on everything, delete all pictures of them, throw anything that reminds you of them away and never look back. Move to another city if you have to. Seeing them again will start the healing process all over again. Story 8. 6 systems. How to keep someone with you forever. How a therapist once attempted to explain it to me. Paraphrasing. A magician loves to manipulate an audience with magic tricks. The magic tricks of manipulation work because of one or two things going on. The audience doesn't understand how the magic tricks of manipulation work, or the audience allows the magician to entertain them through manipulation. You cannot ask, make, or force the magician to stop being a magician. The magician loves being a magician. The magician isn't going to change. If the audience understands the magic tricks of manipulation, or the audience becomes bored with the magic tricks of manipulation, the audience will abandon the magician, and the magician will need to find a new audience to manipulate. An abusive person is just like a magician. Once you understand how the magic tricks of manipulation work, you can choose to not allow yourself to be entertained by the magic tricks of manipulation. You see the magician on the street corner and keep walking. The magician is trying really hard to find an audience. Story 9, Cognitive Dissonance. It's a cage of illusions, and you're so confused you stop knowing who you are. This was actually paralyzing. I basically rotted in this state for years, engaged in almost every behavior possible that fostered cognitive dissonance, and still gaslighted myself into believing I had a hold on my reality. Even when I was made aware of the condition, actually through the name of a song, and realized I was living in it, it still took an extreme shift in my social life, environment. Basically everything had to change in my life for me to break this cycle. Still blows my mind how far gone I was, but that made snapping back feel even better. Story 10, the person that manipulated me the most would always tell me, "I just want you to be happy. What can I do to support you?" Knowing he was the one triggering my past traumas, and truly believing if I opened up and explained the entire thing he would understand and be more careful, I gave him, over the course of a few months, the entire timeline of how my trauma started, what goes on in my head when they manifest, what are my biggest triggers, and what to do to help me through them, as he requested. Well, he used it all against me by using everything I told him to make his words and actions more subtle, almost undetectable. But now, I can see how he actually doubled down in triggering my traumas to manipulate me better and make me totally codependent on him. It went down to the point he convinced me there was something very wrong with me, BPD, and thankfully my reaction was to run straight to a psychologist to get help and perhaps medication. Turned out I was having a normal reaction to emotional abuse, and there's nothing wrong with me at all. Story 11, that phrase is manipulative on its face on multiple levels. It implies that you are too incompetent to make your own decisions, while suggesting that the manipulator is more competent and intelligent. It puts them in the position of the adult and frames you as the child. Everyone manipulates others at some level, whether they know it or not. We learn how to manipulate before we learn to talk. In my case, I make a conscious effort to recognize it in myself and not just in others. It manifests as passive-aggressive behavior. My life is so much better when I root this behavior out of my life. Story 12. I hated hearing that from family, older strangers like those motherly bosses. Obviously, what you think is best for me makes me miserable, so already we're off to a bad start. They completely miss the fact that since they are not in your body, they don't know how difficult their wants are for you. Also, if their want for you made complete sense, how come they don't factor in the consequences of you going with their idea? They don't have to live with it, you do. You're not meant to be someone else's puppet. You're meant to try out things in life, things that don't hurt you or others, that work best for you. How are you supposed to grow if they're standing in your way? This is obviously a rant, but if it helps someone find the words to say to that oppressive person in their life, please feel free to use this. Story 13, my worst abuser was an older partner. He had me absolutely 101% convinced that he loved me and wanted a future with me. Always told me he wanted us to be happy together, told me how loving and domestic I was, how well I understood him compared to everyone else he knew, etc. It took me years upon years to understand that he was a disgusting person who was lying to someone mentally ill so he could continue tricking me into sleeping together. No matter how many decades go by, I'll never understand how it's legal to do that to another person. Story 14. Yeah, some people manipulate by gaslighting, one of the worst forms because it can cause you to question your sanity. You can feel manipulation, but when it comes to friends, they don't need anything from you. And you tell them, "I want what's best for you." It can be true, because people who manipulate are usually looking for you to give them something. They may look innocent, but if they are displaying themselves and their talents for personal gain, that is also a form of manipulation. I think it's a seductive form of manipulation. Some people give more than they receive. Sometimes you have to step back to see if others are being authentic. I personally observe people. If you don't include me in your decisions, when I thought we had a meaningful relationship for many years, if you decide to do something that goes against me, It's not manipulation to give an ultimatum, because while observing, I see your response. I can choose to cut you out of my life. In the end, it was you who decided with your actions, especially if it's a form of betrayal, if it will hurt me, if you know me on a deeper level, then it's your conscious decision. If your decision benefits you while wreaking havoc in my life, then I have the right to walk away. It's not manipulation, it's self-preservation. Story 15. When I was younger, I was out with a friend of mine. We were at some party and he saw a girl he liked in a group of 4 girls. He rolls up to them and strikes up a conversation. After about 5 minutes, he whispers something to 2 of the girls, and they come sit with me at the table and we talk. Meanwhile, he is hardcore hitting on the less attractive girl that he had no interest in. Somehow, close to the end of the night, he got slapped by the less attractive girl, and she left and he hooked up with the girl he had his eye on. I would find out why that happened a week later. Story 16. My ex used to say, "I called you because I had something important I needed to say." Okay? So, I don't know how you're gonna take this, but it has to be said. I just can't hold it back any longer. So, here goes. Yesterday, right after I left your place, I went to my college class, as I always do, and walking in, I noticed that everyone was quiet because they were taking a test, so I sat down after getting my test. I handed it in when I was done. I'm so glad I finished it on time. Then I saw my friend Bethany. Basically, she would always call me as if there were an emergency or she wanted to break up or propose, but it would always be nothing. She got me literally every time, even the last time when she broke up with me. That was the only time I didn't give in to her dramatic introduction, and that's the only time I should have. Damn, that crap was annoying. Always kept me on edge. Another thing she'd do to keep me on edge. Whenever she'd pick up the phone, she'd wait like 4 seconds before saying, "Hello," as if there was a raptor breathing over her shoulder. Also, she'd leave long silences in between phrases to build tension. Story 17. Face the opposite side of the doors in an elevator. Folks get really weird about it. Also, if you're in a situation where people have a regular seat, such as a meeting or break room, take their seat. Even though the seats are not assigned, people tend to be habitual with where they sit. If you take their seat, it will psychologically have them playing out scenarios in their head as to why. This has happened to them. You'll have them stuck in their head for a while. Story 18. You ever say yes to something and later wonder, wait, how did I end up agreeing to that? Like, you walked into a conversation thinking one thing and left fully on board with the opposite. Happens more than we realize, and one of the sneakiest ways it happens is through the illusion of choice. It's simple. When people feel like they have control over a decision, they're way more likely to go along with it, even if all the options lead to the same outcome. Salespeople use this all the time. Instead of asking, "Do you want to buy this?" which invites a no, they'll ask, "Would you like the blue one or the black one?" Your brain focuses on picking between those two instead of questioning the purchase itself. Parents do it too. Instead of forcing a kid to eat vegetables, they'll say, "Do you want broccoli or carrots?" Kids feel like they're in charge, but either way, they're eating veggies. And this doesn't just work on kids and customers. It happens in relationships, negotiations, and even politics. I'm curious, have you ever noticed this happening to you? Or have you ever used this trick on someone without them realizing? Story 19. My favorite dark psychological trick is to tell people that they look cool with sunglasses and that sunglasses suit them well. Then I say, "Wait, actually I have a pair that I think would look perfect on you." I dig through my purse, making sure to retrieve the most heavily tinted sunglasses I have. I give it to them and say, "Try them on. If you like them, you can keep them." They try them on, and I say, "Wow, they look amazing on you." They always agree and decide to keep and wear the sunglasses. Little do they know, I just pulled a dark psychological trick on them. I use psychology to trick them into using tinted lenses to have less light hit their retina, tricking them into making their vision dark. This is what makes this such an effective dark psychological trick. Story 20. I'm stumped at number 1. I've lived in this town mostly all my life, and I put on Google Maps to get to a hospital that's nearby. There's a big billboard saying, "Go this way," with a finger in maps telling me where to go. "Take a right," they said, or "sit like that." I called bullcrap and turned off Google Maps. Took a left 'cause I knew. I should 'cause that's where the hospital be. These people must be misunderstood. Until I was lost in a barren parking lot, I had to call them and they couldn't get me in, and I missed my appointment slot. So maybe I should be exempt from reading the rest of this list, cause I can't make it number 1. I'm a failure. Call it bliss. Story 21, The Power of Silence. Most people are uncomfortable with silence and will fill it with unnecessary words. When you're comfortable with pauses, it signals confidence and thoughtfulness. After someone asks you a question, pause for 2 or 3 seconds before responding. When you finish speaking, don't immediately add more. Let your words land. This makes people lean in and pay attention to what you're saying. Instead of rushing to fill awkward silences in meetings, I started embracing them. People began asking specifically for my opinion because they knew when I spoke it was worth listening to. Even with people I don't know, I do this and they pay attention. Story 22, The Contrast Principle. People judge everything in comparison to what came before. You can use this to make your contributions seem more valuable. When presenting ideas, start with the problem or less ideal options before revealing your solution. In negotiations, anchor with a higher number first. In conversations, listen to complaints before offering solutions. Instead of immediately jumping to solutions, I started acknowledging challenges first. Yeah, that's a tough situation. I can see why the usual approaches wouldn't work. What if we tried doing this and that? It works. Story 23, The Name Game. Hearing our own name activates the reward center in our brain. It's one of the most powerful words for getting someone's attention and making them feel important. Use people's names during conversations, but not excessively. That's an interesting point, Sarah. Or, John, what's your take on this? It makes people feel seen and heard. Remember details about people and reference them later. How did that presentation go, Mike? Shows you care about their world beyond just the current conversation. Story 24, The Authority Posture. Your physical presence communicates before you even speak. People make judgments about your competence and confidence within seconds of seeing you. Stand with your feet shoulder-width apart, shoulders back, and take up appropriate space. When sitting, don't shrink into yourself. Keep your hands visible and avoid fidgeting. Think of your body as taking up the space you deserve, not apologizing for existing. This internal shift shows externally. Story 25, The Reciprocity Principle. When you give value first, people feel psychologically obligated to return the favor, but it has to be genuine, not transactional. Share useful information, make helpful introductions, or offer genuine compliments without expecting anything back. I saw this article and thought you'd find it interesting. Or, you two should meet, you're working on similar problems. People remember who adds value to their lives and naturally want to help those people in return. Here's what I learned. Respect isn't about being the loudest person in the room or having the most impressive credentials. It's about understanding how people's brains work and showing up in a way that makes them feel comfortable, heard, and valued. People respect those who make them feel good about themselves, not those who try to prove how impressive they are. Story 26. I feel the last one. Reciprocity is the best gamble. I stand by the ancient Greeks. No one is more ungrateful than the one who has benefited by you. A well-tested in time wisdom. The other caveat is people come to you for the favors. All is opportunistic, and the moment you don't deliver, they vanish. Only few feel obligated to return the favor, if ever, especially when not a recent one. If time has passed, doesn't matter. If you have helped them in a health matter, have found them a job that made them significantly richer or anything, people can take for granted even when you literally saved their butt. Story 27, I've been there. Someone would be like, what's been up with you? You seem off, and apparently even insert name noticed. This was gaslighting, triangulation, and gathering intel all at once. It also serves to make me feel isolated so that I can't trust people who will go to others about my behavior. I'd have to be on guard for everyone who implicitly was involved in them, ganging up on me. Talk about helplessness. Funny enough though, whenever they try, watch out for insert name, they're acting funny. Did you notice? I never had anything to say to contribute to targeting someone else in their behavior, partly because I never noticed anything strange, but would also continue to treat them fairly, but perhaps stay more out of their way. I suppose that still served to keep them feeling isolated as well.